I think that we look at our industry wrong. We look at ourselves as towers, and I don't believe that. I believe that we're customer service companies that just happen to have tow trucks that serve people.
The Tow Trend Podcast. Dynamic conversations with industry experts and special guests. Featuring your hosts, Shelli Hawkins and Dennis McGowan. Brought to you by Atura.
And without further ado, we've got an incredible guest on this week. Welcome to the show, Mr. Mike Porter.
Really excited to talk to you today, Michael Porter. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you guys.
So, Mike, you are a 30-year towing industry veteran and founder of TDR Way. Coach towing company owners on dispatch habits, leadership skills, and the systems that drive a stable operation. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, your background, where you come from, and what you love about this great business of ours.
Okay, well, my name is Mike Porter. I started a company called TDR Way, and it stands for Training Drives Results. I started it with my best friend from high school. He's been my best friend since my sophomore year. I've been married now 32 years. I have 4 children. I started in this industry, believe it or not, back in 1985, right out of college. Long story short, was a CEO for Speeds Towing for a long time. And then 2019, I purchased my own tow company because obviously family-run business, sons come into the business and they want to start running the business. And so now I'm a consultant for them. And probably about, I would say, 12 years ago, we started this dispatch training program because, quite honestly, we sucked. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. We had a company, an SEO company that we hired to bring us in calls, and it was $10,000 a month. And this is 12 years ago, so that was big money. And on day 60, I'm looking through our P&L and looking at our sales, and they haven't jumped. My expenses jumped, but my sales have not. And so I ended up calling my SEO company to cancel. Said, look, it's not working. And she said, are you listening to your calls? And I said, well, I'm listening to the problem ones. And so she laughed and she said, look, I'll make you a deal. I'm going to send you 10 random calls that we've generated because they were recording them. If it's us, like we're sending you bad leads, I'm going to give you back all your money and you can get out. I'm like, slam dunk. So she did. And what you need to know about me is I don't swear, or at least very rarely. And by the 3rd call, I was saying things I didn't even know I knew how to say. By the 5th call, I had to shut my door because I couldn't believe what my folks were saying. And we had spent tons of money on customer service training. Every month, we had a customer service training. We were training our people how to do great customer service. But the problem was they just didn't know how to answer the phone. So that put me to work on coming up with a call script for our dispatchers. Because what I figured out was this. Back in the 80s and 90s, and even early 2000s, the way that you sold your tow company was through the yellow pages. That's why there's so many businesses called AB Towing or AA Towing. And for those younger viewers, the yellow pages, which my kids go, yellow pages, what were that? Well, it was this big, thick book, that you got delivered to your house. And in our industry, what happened is we didn't need to be salespeople. Your car broke down. You didn't have a cell phone back then. You had what was called quarters, and you hooked it over to a payphone, and you called maybe 1 or 2 towers. Call would come in. Either they said yes or no, and we moved on. Well, in today's world, I can call 100 towers in 5 minutes. And so I started doing some research, and I run a mastermind class, and I'm really into customer service because I think that we look at our industry wrong. We look at ourselves as towers, and I don't believe that. I believe that we're customer service companies that just happen to have tow trucks that serve people.
Okay, I'm going to put that into my verbiage because I often say I like to surround myself with entrepreneurs that happen to own tow trucks. And say that one more time that you just said. We are
a service company that has tow trucks. That's what we are. And so when we started looking at what we were doing in our process is we were just treating it like they were order takers. We were treating every client that called us like it was an order. And if they had any doubt or I'm going to call around, you know what we did? We hung up. Or worse, I had folks say to my client, you know what, we're kind of expensive. Maybe you should call this number.
I love it.
And so what's funny is I use that story because it's real. And when I go around the country and I talk to different owners, I have owners say, I don't have that problem. I said, are you listening to your calls? And then they're like, no. And I said, then you don't know what your problem is. And I met with an owner, and I won't mention their name, but I said, what is your close ratio? How many of those cash calls are you closing? He said 80%. And I was like, no, wow. I said, that's way above national average for any type of sales. And he said, well, here, let's listen to a couple calls. I'll show you. I said, okay. I wasn't trying to embarrass him. First call, his best dispatcher gave the call away, told him they were too expensive. By the third call, I said, you know what? Let's stop listening. And what do you say? But he's not the only one. And what I tell owners about the dispatch training is if you're not listening, I can guarantee you are losing money. And one of the problems, and see, I've already gone into, so anyhow, we'll go into that later. But what happened is I then designed a program that would teach my people how to answer the phone, how to make a sale, how to be an inside salesperson. And in the research, one of the things I realized is in our industry, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I hope I get a tow. I hope I get a tow. It's, I think, their third worst day of their lives. Death, divorce, my car breaks down. And so what we did is, because we're dealing with people's worst day, you have a group of people that are having to manage that stress daily.
I think about that a lot, Mike. I really do. Just the cycle of emotion that comes in through the telephone or however the source of the job comes in, passes on to the dispatcher, passes on to the operator, passes on to the owner. And these are people that simply need help.
Well, and actually what happens is by a certain point in the day, and if you listen to calls, you can tell that this time frame of how long they've been on the phone, now they're answering like, hello, and they're already this ball of stress. And so they don't have the empathy part. So part of what we started to do and train is, how do you manage that? How do you manage the stress of every day? And it's not like we are a cruise ship where people are planning their vacation. Our job is to try to make their day just a little bit better as best as we can. And so we came up with a script. I then said, all right, what's the best way to train this? And I said, you know what? I'll do videos, right? So I videoed myself doing the first class, and it took me 3 hours worth of information and then another 3 days of editing, and I got it down to a 45-minute video. And I started to watch it and went, no one's going to watch this. I did it, and I'm bored. So back 12 years ago, I found some software where I could animate 15-minute segments. And so
you have done a fantastic job. I really enjoy those.
Well, they probably need to be refreshed because it's been 12 years. But and so I thought, you know what, this is really good. And then I started sharing it with friends in the industry and said, what do you think? And they liked it. They said, you need to go to tow shows. You need to promote it. So I did. And I did basically all the tow shows, talking about what we came up with in the videos. And I'm doing one of these. And at the end, Santa Fe Towing out of Kansas City, John Kupchin came up to me. I did not know him from Adam. He said, hey, I want you to come to my shop and teach this. That's not in the market or my market plan. I send you the videos. You watch the videos. You teach yourself. He said, no.
I can hear John Kupchin right now saying, I don't care what your market plan is. I want you to come to Kansas City.
And that's what he said.
Next road and teach this. Yes.
So I said, give me 30 days so I can come up with a plan to present this to folks. And I did. And he was my very first in-person training. Their sales jumped 40% in the first 2 years. But the caveat to the training is you get what you measure. The bottom line is you get what you measure. If you are not listening to your calls and measuring it, and so what we also did is we took the measurement from subjective to objective. So there's a scoring sheet. So when you listen to a call, there's certain parameters that the script goes through that we want our dispatchers to follow so that they can make the sale. And I'm going to tell you the $1 million idea. Going to share it with everybody. So part of our script is when someone answers, and I'll just kind of give it to you. Newhouse Towing is my company. Thank you for calling Newhouse Towing. My name is Mike. Can I get your name and phone number? Seems really, really obvious, doesn't it? 99% of all towers don't ask for the client's name until the end of the call. And yet, you folks know you cannot create a relationship if you don't know someone's name. But what we know about our name is it's the sweetest words we ever hear. And it causes cognitive dissonance when we hear our name, which means our brains shut down everything else and draws focus. So that's why I asked for your name first. So the $1 million idea is this. If I get Shelli's name and phone number, and she's doing a price quote, and I go through the information, I give her a quote, she says, you know what? I need to think about it. Okay, I understand. There's price shoppers out there. Got it. But what if I called her 5 minutes later? I said, Shelli, this is Mike with Newhouse Towing. You called and said that you might need a tow. I'm just checking to make sure you're getting home safe. That's it. Not trying to make the sale. I just want to make sure you're taken care of. It changes now the process of I'm just looking for the tow into I'm looking to make sure Shelli's okay and she's going to get home safe.
So good.
I'd love to tell you it's like 60%, that you get turned. It's not. It's probably more like 10 to 15. But the difference is, what other towers doing that?
And I'm sitting here smiling and nodding because I've sat in that chair, right? The large portion of my career was in the seat, right? In the dispatch office, whether it was taking calls or returning calls or moving trucks around and overseeing call takers. And, those points you made are just incredible, right? And I've been in that situation too, where I've been the angry person on the other end of the phone. It's been a stressful day. I'm short 4 drivers. I'm supposed to have 20 drivers. I've got 18. I'm supposed to have, we've got 10 more calls than we have. We're backed up. We're busy. The last thing I want is another call, right? The last thing I want is another because every one of those calls as a dispatcher is a problem, right? It's a problem that needs to be solved. What truck gets that call? Where does it go? Who can hold longer? This one is at a shop. He can wait a couple hours. There's nobody sitting with us. So you're constantly problem solving. And just when you think you've got the puzzle figured out, here comes another piece.
Well, and that's the other, and it's interesting you say that because one of the other things we teach about the actual dispatching side, we believe there's 3 questions you should be asking your dispatchers every single day, every time you see them. One.
Can we pause for 1 second?
Yes.
Because I want you to hold those 3 points. Because I do want to share a quick story about traveling to Portland, Oregon early this year and visiting with Mike Porter. Don't forget those 3 points. So I had the opportunity to go to Portland. I went to a trade show. Went with another coworker of mine. It's fantastic. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I'm going to see Mike Porter. And even in my AW Direct days, I love to call the dispatch center to see how the operators, on the other line would answer the phone to see how they were. And meanwhile, I've got the cell phone of the owner, but oftentimes I would test it. And so I did that very thing with Newhouse Towing in Portland, Oregon. And do you know what they said when he answered? And Mike, wasn't this your daughter that answered? Or who was it that answered, I believe?
Yeah, I think it was one of the daughters answered, which is good because that means they got to eat that night.
You betcha they did. You bet. And the call went like this. Thank you so much for calling Newhouse Towing. Can I first get your name and number? And that was it. Not anything else. And so I had never heard anyone speak so professionally. And I knew about your curriculum, your passion for teaching communication and all of that, but I wanted to experience it firsthand. So I love that I tested you and you passed the test, but I did not have any hesitation to think that your telecommunicators, dispatchers would pass the test.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. But we have to measure them too because before I go into the point of the 3 things we ask dispatch is that one of the things that you said is as a dispatcher or a call receiver, it gets very hectic. And if I can just not have to take the call, you just talked about, I've got all these things going on. Boy, it's so much easier to say we're too busy. Our ETAs are too long. It's really expensive. And now I don't have to do anything. And that is human nature.
Yes.
And we really see it. You don't see it so much during the day because ownership and managers around, but swing shifts and graveyard, you tend to see it, and it's just human nature. You have fewer drivers on. So you've got to measure it. But anyhow, so thank you very much. I'm glad that they did that. Because it's hard to measure your folks. You don't want to have to do that. I've had drivers or companies who've contacted me and said, "Hey, I want your training. I heard you say to listen to them. I went home. I listened. I wanted to cut my ears off." And so I and for those who say, "No, I don't have any issues." Look, I've been doing this for 12 years, and my company my folks, people get overwhelmed. They're not handling it right, and they let calls go. And look, I'm the guy that started the whole thing. So if you're not listening and measuring, I can guarantee 99.9% that you're giving money away that you didn't even know.
Agree, but I can't help but believe that when extenuating circumstances happen, like you have a massive snowstorm, your dispatchers are already in the motion of asking that right question. So they have created that habit. They already have the foundation laid so that when people calling with even higher emotion, call after call after call, they are at the ready. And I'm sure it's all hands on deck. And I'm sure you've experienced that before.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think that the other key is teaching people how to manage that stress. And, one of the things we find in all dispatch, and if you've ever answered the phone, you've had that one customer who was just a jerk. Just, you towed it because it was a police call. Maybe it was drunk driving. Who knows? No, they didn't have it, but it's always somebody else's fault, and it's your fault because you stole their car, and they're a complete jerk. I mean,
Jerks.
They just, and they're calling you names and this, that, and the other.
Yes.
And you finally get off the phone, and you want to tell everyone else in dispatch what a jerk they were.
Yep.
And we talk to people about how that does not help you and does not help your whole dispatch. Because what happens
accomplishes nothing, right?
It does. And what really we're trying to do is, when I tell Shelli about this horrible, worst call I've ever had in my life, is I want her to let me know it's okay for me to feel bad. But people say, well, but I'm just venting. No, what you're trying to do is justify that you should feel bad. And the worst part is, Shelli does not make me feel any better. What Shelli actually does is tell me, oh, you think that's bad? You should have heard this call. And then we just keep moving down the line, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and we're all like, I'm going to kill the person. When we try to teach, we do teach how to manage that. That, first of all, we have all the power, that you can't allow anybody to say anything that will hurt you unless you allow them to. And so we bring in lots of material from different authors and science about how to manage that stress. And so our first concept in our STEEP process is every call starts with a smile. And there's science behind that. And it's not just the smile that people hear, and we know scientifically you can hear when someone smiles or not smiles, but it's for you.
Yeah.
Smiling alone helps release endorphins, the natural kind, the greatest kind in the world, makes you feel better. Even a fake smile.
How many times did you smile as a dispatcher?
Not often, I'll be honest with you.
Absolutely none. I'm going to go ahead and answer.
And so what we do is we also suggest put a mirror in front of all the dispatch.
Yeah.
And you have something to smile. And you walk through dispatch if you're manager and say, what's every call start with? Because it's got to be this constant reminder of smiling, because look, this is a difficult job. And what's happened is in our industry, we've also had to change from dispatch being a cost center. I used to hear that all the time. My dispatch is a cost center. Well, it probably is if you're not selling. But it really is where your profit comes in and where you make the money. And so how do we get that across to our dispatch? And what we did along with this program is say, we think you should bonus your dispatchers. And so
love it.
What we did is we looked at...
You hiring? Wait a second.
Yeah. At speed, we said, what is our capacity? And so we're just going to use real easy numbers. So at the time we started the program, let's say we were doing 70 cash calls a week. And I looked at the numbers and I said, I think we can double that. I think we have capacity to double our calls. So what I did is I said, all right, I went into dispatch. I said, as a group, if you can do 100 cash calls a week, I'm going to pay each one of you $20. And I don't care if you work part-time, graveyard, days full. If you answer the phone, you're part of the program. If you can do 125, I'll pay you $50. If you can make the 150, I'm going to pay you $100 cash each.
Whoa.
So the first week I cheated. They didn't make the number, but I paid them the $20 anyway. But here's the deal. And this again is psychology for people, is you make wins big. Monday I came in, looked at the number. We were about 10 off. I didn't care. I went to my cash, took out $20, enough for everybody, went in and said, woohoo, we made it. We did 100 cash calls. And I went 20, 20, 20, 20, 20 to everybody. Next week I lied again, but we were closer. 20, 20, 20. By the fourth week, they were making that 100, the 100 cash calls. And here's what happened that I hadn't even anticipated. The day crew was talking to the swing crew saying, hey, we got this many, you need to get this during swing. And the swing would say to the graveyard, we are 10 calls away for the weekends and nights. You need to get these so we make our bonus. It got to the point where Monday, it used to be I'd walk in Monday and I had people like at my desk, like little squirrels up against my window. Have you got the numbers yet? They started keeping track. They started keeping track of their own numbers. They had a thermometer and they were tracking their cash calls, and regularly they're getting $100 cash. Now, for IRS who's listening, we do deduct that from their pay, so the taxes are being covered.
This is like a telethon. This is like a telethon, and you see, like you said, the thermometer go up.
And so it was, to see that energy was incredible. And all of a sudden, what we had is for what we wanted is not just a bonus program that was like cheesy. I wanted it to be life changing. And if they get the $100, it's almost $2 an hour more a week. And what we found is for our guys and our ladies that were working for us, that they all of a sudden the guys were playing some golf, or it was this cash they could put in their pockets. They didn't necessarily have to share with everybody. And it kept the momentum going. Like I said, I go off track, but that was one of the things we put in place also. The other thing that we put in place is we changed our pricing structure. So when you call and ask how much for a tow, what we never, ever, ever do is just give you a price. And I hear this all the time. Shelli calls me for a tow and I say, okay, it's $169 for the hook. It's $25 if it's dollies. It's $6 a mile, yada, 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 yada. And you're on your phone going, okay, how much is it? My calculator's on my phone. So I hated our pricing. So I said, what does Amazon do? What does Southwest do? Well, at Amazon, if I want my package today, it costs me more. If I can wait 2 business days, it's a little bit less. If I can wait 2 weeks, well, gee Louise, it's almost free. Southwest does that too. If you want to be the first on the plane, here's the price. If you're not as worried or really going for the cheap price, here it is. So we said when Shelli calls and says, hey,
Shelli loves Southwest, by the way. She's a big fan.
Yeah.
I am now because Baltimore. Yeah, for sure.
So we said our price is based on urgency. And that's after we get, the vehicle information, where you're at, where you're going. If you need us, you want to be on our A list, it's $269. Flat rate, doesn't matter. And this again is light duty. It's flat rate, doesn't matter if I send a wheel lift, a rollback, does not matter. And it includes 10 free miles. If you go over the 10 free, then it's $6 a mile. That's if you need us immediately. If you can give me 4 hours, it's $225. If you're not in a rush, 24 hours, it's $199. Which one works for you? Now, I always ask this question, which price point do you think most people take? They take the most expensive one.
They take the express package.
They want the express. They want now. And so we in our training, we talk about ETAs and how valuable it is to keep your client informed of an ETA.
What is an ETA? Some people out there may not know what an ETA is.
Estimated time of arrival.
What does that mean?
If you are on the side of the road, broke down, you're going to know how long it's going to take for me to get to save you, to rescue you.
You bet I do.
What happens is we have companies out there that either lie, automatically it's 30 minutes. Here where I'm at, I couldn't get to you in 30 minutes on a good day, just not because I don't have the trucks, because of the traffic.
Yeah.
So I have to be relatively honest with you and give you a good ETA. And so what we tell our and I wanted to stop just a minute, take a time out. You've probably heard me call everything, people who call clients, I do not call them customers. We call them clients. because I believe vernacular is important.
Yeah.
Customers, by definition, is a one-time user. You are a customer of McDonald's. Nobody goes to McDonald's because it's the best hamburgers they've ever had.
I don't know. I might be a McDonald's client. I
You're
might be a
like-
McDonald's
You
client.
might be okay. For most people anyway. But client, by definition, is under my protection. You hear lawyers and doctors talk about clients because they're under their protection. Well, isn't that what we do? When Shelli calls my company and needs a tow, I'm making her a promise because I ask for her name and I give her my name. I'm making a promise. She's under my protection. I'm going to make sure I'm going to get someone to her in the allotted time that we need. ETAs are valuable. Now, is there times I am not going to meet an ETA? Absolutely. All of a sudden, I get 5 police calls. The problem is...
That never happens.
yeah, right. No. The problem is that I don't let Shelli know. I let her call me. Giving her a 45-minute ETA, it's been an hour she's calling, and now she's upset, which rightfully so. And so I use the story of going to the doctor. Right? You ever gone to the doctor?
I'm gonna pause you about the doctor and go with Dennis's question, and we'll get to the doctor in a second.
So, Mike, you mentioned the different pricing structure. I'm wondering if this is something that you've tested or thought about. Does the way you read those prices tend to have an effect on the result? Like, do you start with 24-hour first and go if you start with the most expensive first and work your way down?
And quite honestly, there's a psychology not only that Southwest uses, Amazon uses, but even if you go to the grocery store or go to Best Buy, you'll notice that they have high-end TVs, middle TVs, low-end. And you know what they're actually hoping you buy? The medium one. So we get the most profit. There's a psychology. And so now also I am giving my client the choice on which one's going to work.
Like when you go to a restaurant and get the second most expensive bottle of wine on the menu.
Right. Usually that's the one that's got the highest profit margin.
Because people don't order the most expensive bottle most of the time. They go, okay, well, I'm going to get what's below that. And yep, you're absolutely right.
The other thing that we talk to towers about all the time is they don't charge enough.
That could be a podcast on its own.
That could be a whole conversation for sure. I agree.
So I do want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
We're talking about dispatch and dispatch is obviously the front line, right? And dispatcher is the voice of the company. They're the first person you hear. We understand the importance of what that brings to the culture and what that brings to the entire company culture, right? Mike, you're a big proponent, and I believe you started the 20 group program.
Okay, well, great. I'm glad you. Nice lead in. I actually didn't start it. 20 groups have been around since the 1970s, and dealerships actually started this process. My first 20 group, we had a wrecking yard for many years, and I got involved with them, and I could see the value. And basically, what 20 groups are, they call them 20. I don't know there's ever actually been 20 companies because holy crap, it takes a whole lot of time. But we have, for us, it's 8 to 10. I was in a group. We've been now for 15 years. We had a different facilitator. He quit, and the group asked me to take over the facilitation of it. And basically what a 20 group is you bring companies together that are not direct competitors. And so we have companies from all over the country. And what we do is make sure that, so I have 2 groups. I will not take, I mentioned Santa Fe. They're in our group 1. I can't take another company in Kansas City. It's not fair to them. That makes
sense.
We sign, non-disclosures. We actually have quite a commitment of A, you're going to come to all the meetings. B, you're going to participate. And what happens is we end up taking, we get our numbers. Everybody shares their P&Ls, their balance sheets. We then have a list of about 20 questions that we have them answer so we can then do a comparison of all the companies and percentages. Because I have companies that have, 6 trucks to 40 trucks. And so you're going to see well, how can these two communicate? Well, they do, because here's the difference. Someone who has 40 to 100 trucks can't pivot as fast as someone who has 6. And so there is a real meeting of the minds. And so the guy who has 6 gets to talk to the guy who has 40 and share, how did you get there? real life stuff, not, you go to tow shows and I love everybody that I meet, but they don't always give you the full truth. And with the 20 group, you literally take your pants down. And part of the process for us is we do a numbers meeting. And our numbers is we look at, take 90 minutes per company and go through every line item and ask the owner, what's this? Why are you spending this? Why is this higher than everybody else's? Or, hey, look, you're much lower than everybody. What are you doing? What happens in our industry, and this is a broad statement, most of owners are by feel. They started the business. They were a driver. They were good at what they did. They expanded. They've grown. They've got a dispatch, accounting. But if you ask them how much they're spending on fuel, they don't know. Or if their fuel bill or their advertising goes up a couple grand, why? And they don't know because they're not measuring. And what happens is we then get them to all measure and look at their P&Ls the same way. In fact, we call it Financial Friday. Every Friday, you should be looking at your P&L. Where's your money going?
I love the financial aspect. I love that so much. A couple other things that I appreciate about these 20 groups, peer groups, whatever you want to call them, is diversity. And by diversity, I mean, think about the topography, the environment that these towers are in. Some of them, no doubt, are in canyons out west doing tows, and some of them are in the downtown of New York City. So, and they all have a vast different portfolio of the sources of jobs. Some are focused on municipality work. Some are focused on commercial work. Some have, basically, what is the work that's going to come to you to be profitable in the business. So I love that you have different environments represented. I also love that you have different sources of jobs represented so they can all talk about their experience and what is working for them, what is growing, what is profitable, or what was profitable and is no longer profitable. It's fantastic, Mike. I love what you're doing.
Before you came on, Mike, we were talking a little bit backstage here about the camaraderie that comes from these groups and how you all are all essentially living in a house together for 10 days or whatever it is. Can you go into a little bit more of like what that sentiment is, what it's like first day when everybody walks in, nobody really knows each other compared to like when you're leaving?
It's scary as all get out. And so Marcy Graziano from O'Hare Towing helps me with our groups, her and Bill. And they were in group one and they become and what I will tell you about these groups is they become your best friends. And honestly, of my two groups, if any of them called me right now, if my phone rang and it was one of them said, hey, I need you here. I need help. We've had an incident. Can you come? My wife and I would be on an airplane and we would fly there and we would help. That's the kind of camaraderie you get. So 3 years ago, Marcy called me and said, hey, and we were doing our numbers meetings for group one. I'm getting us a house. I said, what? And she said, I'm getting us a house. We're all going to stay together. I was like, Now, remember, we do numbers for 2 days and it's, 8 hours of, you're drooling by the end of the day because there's so much information that you're gleaning from other people's numbers by your own, answering questions. And so that break of being able to go to your room and veg out for a little while, I was scared to death. In fact, she was scared. She didn't even tell Bill, her husband. Bill shows up. We flew into Phoenix and they're driving. She's driving and he's like, there's no hotels here. Where are you going? She goes, oh yeah, I didn't want to tell you. We're all staying in the same house.
Sure, that went over. That went over really well with Bill.
It was amazing. It was, for one. So what happens generally when we did the groups, we would do our numbers. We'd get a hotel. We'd rent, a conference room, do all the numbers, go to a dinner, eat too much, drink a little bit too much. By the time you get back to the room, you're exhausted, and then get up the next morning and there you go. Well, at the house, we were just together and we didn't stay up late. And all of a sudden it was, because, you go to a restaurant and there's, 14 people. I can't hear anyone down that side of the table. And so you're just kind of talking to 2 or 3. In a house, talking to everybody. And it was such a great experience when we started group 2, the very first meeting in Orlando, we rented another house. And what I will tell you is group 2 now is starting year 3 in January. it created this bond almost overnight. It was just absolutely amazing. And we set up a group chat so that they can talk and ask questions to each other at any time, day or night. And believe me, they do, day or night. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm getting 4 a.m. texts sometimes. But it creates this friendship and family. And I'm not using family in that hyperbole that people tend to use. I honestly know that if I was in trouble, that they would fly here because we've already done those things. We were at a site visit with a guy who's been with us for 15 years, and we're giving him a report. And so what a site visit is, we go to your facility and we have 168 questions that each owner asks. And we interview every single one of your employees. We look at every truck. We look at your procedures, your process. We listen to calls. We do a secret shopper. We give you a report of what you're doing right, wrong, and things like, oh my God, what are you doing that for? And here's the value. I've been doing this for a long time, and every time I go, oh my God, what are they doing? I'm glad I'm not doing that, but I write it down. Come back. Hey, are we doing this? And I can't tell you how many times the answer is, yeah. But we call it a board of directors because I have either multimillionaires or people who are getting very close who are spending a week to 3 days in your business trying to make you better. And you can't get that. There are consultants out there that are not part of our industry that'll come in and charge you hundreds of thousands of dollars and you get nothing. Here, every time we have a meeting, I leave with something. And so we were at the site visit. Guy's been with us for a long time. He's been in business for years. His dad owned the business. And he said, and this is one of the ones that just touched my heart more than anything, is if it wasn't for this group, I'm not sure we'd still be around.
Wow.
And we hear that a lot. I know for myself, when I bought New House, it's been around since 1937. It had 3 trucks. They had a 1.7 star rating. We bought 1 truck from them. We have 14 now. And if it wasn't for the group and what I've learned, we wouldn't have been able to grow as fast as we did.
That is
and so it's
incredible.
A challenge.
Yeah.
And you have to be, one, willing to know you don't know it all. You don't have all the answers. And in our industry, what happens, and it's not just ours, it's businesses, small businesses for sure, your glass ceiling is how much you can do, how smart you are. That's your glass ceiling. Well, my glass ceiling just exploded because now I have 20 other companies that are doing well or great that I can rely on and take information from. Talk about who's your best customer, and they'll tell me, hey, this is who you should contact in your neck of town and see if you can get the business. And so it is, honestly, best investment we ever did, best thing I've ever done. And again, there are so many things that happen in our industry that are first times that I can always reach out to someone and say, hey, what did you do? What do you do? We've had drivers who unfortunately have been killed in the line of duty. Do you know what to do as an owner? And a lot of people don't have a clue. We just reach out and someone has gone through it and they tell you and they walk you step by step.
So I'm sure you've uncovered some uncomfortable situations and significant problems, we'll call them, in operations. Without naming names or shaming anybody, can you tell us some of the sort of difficulties that you've come across, like the real complex stuff that you've obviously beyond a driver, being struck and killed is the worst thing to ever happen to a company, but that's not something that you really uncover that you find out is happening behind the scenes. So,
well, here's one of the biggest things I think that's happening in our industry right now is transfer of business. And what I mean by that is I believe probably 90% of all towers, and it may be less now with all the consolidation, but our family-owned business. Dad started or grandpa started it, and then dad's got it. He's now getting to the age where they're thinking, hey, you know what? I need to either transfer it to my kids or sell the business. And so those are things we see a lot happening. We do have younger companies, but the great thing with them is that we can share with them, hey, start setting up some of these things now when your kids are young. Don't wait until you're 60-something or 70 and you have multiple children and none of them are in the business, or some of them are in the business, and you don't have that plan moving forward. We've had to fire people. Quite honestly, we've had to fire family.
Wow.
We had on our secret shopper, they ended up firing the driver because it was so bad. We've had to deal with people stealing money that we didn't know. What happens as owners, we get very, very busy, and sometimes we trust more than we should. And sometimes you just don't. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day. And if you are an owner that loves to be in a truck and you're out doing that, those things can happen and you don't even know it. So there's been lots of things that we've looking at your numbers, looking at what you're spending on things, finding out that, hey, you know what? I think someone's stealing fuel from you. It's simple things like that. Or, payroll issues, or anything that happens in business we've dealt with. And the way that we make sure that every owner has an employee that works for them that they have a soft spot for. And the position has probably outgrown that employee. And what we try to do is at least remind you as an owner, hey, are you sure you still want to keep this or keep this person? And the other thing, quite honestly, that we do more often than not is just accountability. We have an accountability meeting every month. And what that means is, as an owner, I have lots of things I want to do. I have a to-do list. I have a motion. It's called motion. I put all my things that I need to get done during the day. What happens, though, for most owners is this: we get caught in the whirlwind. Just that we love putting out fires. That's the fun.
Shelli, what do you call it?
It's called motion.
No, Shelli has a name for what do you call it? The tornado of chaos?
Yeah, it is. It is the swirling tornado of chaos. Mm-hmm.
As a firefighter, which as a business owner, we tend to do that. We get a lot of stuff done during the day, but we don't ever focus on what's important. And we always talk about, listen, you join a group like this because you want to work on the business, not just in it. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is vitally important. If you're going to really grow your business, you have to work on it, not just in it. And this type of group makes you do that. And accountability makes you do that. Because as an owner, I get caught in the whirlwind of everything going on that I forget what's important.
True.
Well, this accountability, monthly, we call and we are on a Zoom and everybody's talking. And I said, okay, here's the deal. You said you're going to get this, this, and this done this month. What have you done? And Bill Graziano, who's in our group one, he says, man, I'll tell you what, 2 days before I know our meeting, all that stuff is done. Here's the other thing about site visits. And we all know this. And if you have a home, you fill up space with, junk, right? And when a site visit comes, there are things you just kind of don't do until you have 10 people coming, or 10 to 14 coming to your facility. Guess what? You clean up as much as you possibly can because you want to remove the low-lying fruit. You don't want this group of very successful people to waste their time on silly things. You want them to actually, get into the meat of what your issue is or what you're doing well. And
shop is
honestly,
clean, the gates work, everything. The basics, right? The
basics. The things that you let
lock.
Go. Yes.
Right.
The things you let loose until you go, oh my God. And it's like Christmas. You got a whole family coming over. You're wiping behind everything. At least my wife does that.
Baseboards are important because that's the first thing when I go visit a house. That's the first thing I check is the baseboards. Did we remind me, Mike? I apologize. Did we cover all three? I know we were talking about one of the 3 points that we covered. Did we cover all of those?
Well, I just wanted to say we kind of skipped, but the 3 questions I think you should ask your dispatcher every time you walk in a room is: 1, where is everybody? What are they doing? I can hear you. Number 2, what are they doing next? Number 3, what are you going to do if a police call comes in?
You're giving me flashbacks right now. My mind is blown. I'm back in Brooklyn behind the desk. I'm gonna I'm gonna take a quick pause here. We do have to cover our sponsor, the folks that make this happen. This episode is brought to you by Atura. Atura provides today's towing and recovery companies with tomorrow's technology so they can modernize operations, scale business, and deliver exceptional customer experiences to their communities. With towing management software, digital dispatch, GPS fleet tracking, lean search, notifications, payment processing, impound management, auction solutions, Atora's technology brings speed, efficiency, and data-driven insights to daily operations, helping you maximize your profitability and business growth. Learn more at atora.com. Somebody has to pay for this, right?
This is quite understand. Yes.
But before we wrap up here, we got another few minutes of Mike's time. Let's talk a little bit about the future, right? This is what we like. We like to talk about the future here, right? We like to talk about where this industry is heading, where things are going. Mike, what do you see in the office specifically, in the dispatch center? What is the future of dispatch? What is the future of automation? How do AI tools come into play? What are you seeing here and where we're going to be in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years?
Well, I think that you're going to see a lot more AI. I haven't.
And what use cases are you seeing, and what do you think is where we're heading on that?
I don't have the actual company names, but there are a couple of our at least
that's fine. They're not
head.
Our sponsors.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good. I do have a couple in our 20 groups that are using the AI to answer phones for them to help them out. They're basically one company I think is using it almost full time. The others are nights and weekends. Here's the advantage. You only have to train it once, and you can basically almost tell it exactly what you need to do. I haven't tested it yet, but I can see that it's going, well, first of all, it's inexpensive, way cheaper than workers' comp, insurance, all that, people calling in sick. We know that whole story. I think that there's going to be a place for it. I don't know that I feel comfortable, and now again, I'm almost 60, so that you got to put that with a grain of salt, that I would ever go 100% to AI. It just concerns me. Because even today, and we all done it, we've called places and there's AI and they're answering questions. I feel like I'm constantly saying, I want to talk to a live person.
And we just talked about that human element, that empathy, that making a connection, right? And why that is important. And while there are some exceptional models out there that can emulate empathy, you're not getting that same human connection.
And I would agree. And so you talked about empathy, and that is really kind of part of our script. Every call starts with a smile. Thank you for calling Newhouse Towing. This is Mike. Can I get your name and phone number? Shelli gives me your name. Shelli, are you calling for a tow? That is the next question we ask. And I know that seems like a really silly question, but what we're trying to do in the dispatch training, and I'm getting off topic, but I'll come back, I promise, is that most dispatch ask open-ended questions like, how may I help you? And we've all had that call. And I remember the 80-year-old woman who called me, and she was at Walmart. Her son-in-law was a good for nothing because he didn't fix her car, and she didn't know which Walmart she was at. She was just at Walmart. Of course, there's just one in every city, right? And the call took 15 minutes, and because I didn't take control of the call by asking close-ended questions, which are yes or no. Are you calling for a tow is the next question. If Shelli says yes, the next question is the empathy question, and it is, are you in a safe location? Because there's value there to that question. Because if she's not, she's blocked, she's on the freeway. Guess what I know as a dispatcher? Price is not going to be a big concern. She's broke down, she's on the freeway, she is not in a safe location. No, I'm at home, I just need to take to the shop. Oh, now price might be a bigger issue, so I can get that call, and that shows the empathy side of things. And you're right, I'm not sure AI is going to be there yet, but I bet in 2 years it will, that you will not be able to tell.
Yeah, and what I want people to think about and have an open mind about is what we've all experienced as the evolution of communication in the towing industry. Mike, you mentioned quarters back in the day, and Dennis told me about operators rolling around with a roll of quarters in the truck to call payphones so they didn't have to drive back, and how we have progressed with communication, how we have progressed with the source of our job coming in as a digital dispatch versus the telephone. I mean, way back in the day, it was 100% telephone, pen and paper tickets, paper invoicing, everything was on paper, nothing was on the computer. And now today, what is the percentage of jobs coming into dispatch centers that are digital versus the telephone? Way more than 50%. Is that crazy to say to think that? I mean, what do you guys think?
Quite 50% for us, okay. But it's getting pretty close. I do know that this next generation, my kids' generation, doesn't want to call on the phone. They want to email me.
Exactly.
Or they want to text. They don't want to have that contact. I
don't want people to be afraid of, oh my gosh, we're not talking anymore. We're not talking as humans anymore. I want them in our business specifically to see it as efficiencies. And when the call, when you're on the telephone with someone trying to get the VIN number, trying to get the year, make, and model, it sounds completely different. You have to repeat it back with the phonetic alphabet. Now when it comes through as a digital dispatch, boom, everything is on the screen. You don't have to type anything down. It's more efficient. You don't have to guess. So should we be thinking about AI? Absolutely. Is AI coming? Absolutely. Now, just like all of these other efficiencies, let's take AI and make this as efficient as possible for us, because we can do that. We are only afraid of things we don't understand. So let's
Shelli,
understand it.
You and I have talked about this at length with some other folks as well, but the idea of AI being a tool to remove the toil, right? The difficult, repetitive tasks, the annoying, pain in the butt telephone calls that are, hey, how much do I owe on this car? Insurance company XYZ calling, going, how much is owed on this car? Is this vehicle released? That sort of automation, it exists, and the sort of tools to help a dispatcher process, I think, is where we're headed, and at least from what I've seen, is these tools to help a dispatcher stop the repetitiveness and be able to do their job more effectively, more efficiently. So not replacing dispatchers and not replacing that empathy and that customer service portion of it, but allowing them more time so that chaos, that anger, that bitterness, all that stuff that happens with being too stressed out because we're just too damn busy today, being able to take some of that away so that they can focus on what those core behaviors are.
Yeah. Our very good friend mentioned to us, so I just real quick to tack on what Dennis says, when it comes to the day-to-day, there is work and there is toil. Our very good friend shared this with us. And this toil represents just the repetitive. And this work is like the exception to what else was happening. This is what's happening every single day, all day long, and this is the toil. Perhaps it brings down the culture of the company to do this toil. And so, like Dennis said, this is what you can foundationally use AI as a product for.
I'd agree that one of the things that we found through our research is about it's 4 calls for one possibility of getting a tow. Minimum. You're taking 4 calls of, release, somebody wants to sell you paper, insurance, whatever. It takes about,
Shelli's
on
calling
average,
to sell parts.
Yeah. 1 in 4 calls is going to be, actually your 5th call is a possible sale. So moving from that, I think that, we are in a really interesting time. Technology, look, I was around before we had desktop computers, and that's 20 some years ago. And then you've got internet. Well, AI is moving a million times faster than all of those. And so if you don't get yourself somewhat on board with it, you're going to be left behind.
Be the early adopter. We had chains, and how many people looked at a round sling and said, absolutely not. You're telling me that this round sling can do what that chain can do? Absolutely not. And they were just like, no. And now you're not going to find a tow truck without a round sling in it. Be the early adopter and just be curious, be open-minded and be curious, just like we are about all parts of our towing industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'd say for the industry-wide, if you're not learning, if you're not in a 20 group, and if you're not training your people, if you're not measuring what you're doing, you're not going to succeed. You're not. Failure is just right around the corner because business has gotten tougher. It is more expensive to do things. I mean, to buy a truck is absolutely crazy. Insurance around the country is crazy. Health insurance, we're starting to look at new renewals. They are going crazy. And yet I hear all the time that, well, I can't charge more. I can't charge more because I have a competitor that will do it for $50. And we are always telling folks in our 20 group, let them, because I don't want that. If I don't want the price shopper. If you think that $269 is too much for your 2025 Mercedes, then you know what? I don't want you. And the reason why I don't want that cheap guy is because they're the ones that 9 times out of 10 are complaining about that scratch in their bumper.
It's always the Mercedes customers.
Well, yeah. And so I said, look, our industry has not done a good job of representing itself about what we do. It's not just about the miles from point A to point B. We get people home safe. That's what we do. We rescue people. We are first responders. And we've got to treat ourselves that way and say, we are bringing value to you. And yes, you can call someone down the street, but I can guarantee they're not calling you if they're not meeting the ETA. I can guarantee their drivers are not trained. I can guarantee their equipment's not up. They don't have the workers' comp. They don't have. So if I called a plumber to my house today because I got a plugged toilet, it's $300 for him to walk through the door, and he's got a bucket and a snake. Not a $100,000, $200,000 piece of equipment with a guy that's been trained for months and weeks on how to hook things up and make sure you get home safe.
Yeah. I keep thinking about what you said originally, and I'm probably going to mess it up, but what was it, Mike? We are customer service companies that happen to own tow truck. Is that we are a customer service company that happens to own tow trucks. And I love that. I'm going to think about that for quite some time. I appreciate you sharing that because it's so true.
I'm a business owner. I'm just finding out about 20 groups. I am just learning about you and these sorts of tactics and generally speaking, improving my business. What is one action as an owner coming up on the end of the year now? You know, it's mid-December now. This probably, by the time this is out, it might even be the new year. What is one action I should be taking to get my year off right, to get my finances in order, to get my business in order? What is the most important thing that I should be doing today?
Listen to your calls.
As a dispatcher sitting in that seat, sitting behind the desk, answering those phones, what is one habit I should be learning? What is one habit I should keep in mind?
Smile.
I love it.
Listen to your calls and smile. It's that simple. That's how you run a successful tow business.
Well, at least how you run a successful, a dispatch. And I think one of the things that the reason I say, listen to your calls, because if you listen, you're going to know for sure you have an issue. And that will then lead you to, oh crap, well, maybe I should get some training, which is good for me. Or B, oh man, maybe I don't have all the answers. And I think that's a value, because I have talked to owners who say, I don't need any help. I've got it all figured out. That always scares me. As a business owner, I don't have it all figured out, and I'm just me. And I am a chronic reader. I read 2 to 3 business books a month. I lead a mastermind class. And the reason I do this is because I know that I am limited. My ceiling, I have a glass ceiling, which we all do. But when I decided to say, you know what, I'm going to be humble enough to know I don't know it all. And yet I can look at some businesses out there, Santa Fe Towing, O'Hare Towing. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Elite Towing. And they are very successful. They don't have to be in a group. They were successful before they came in a group. In fact, when we started, and I know you're Indian, but John came to our group and begged. John Cupchin with Santa Fe was got an incredible company. Shelli, you know John. I can hear you. Begged to be in the group because he felt it was so valuable to have other ideas out there and to learn from other people that are doing it and make it. What's great about it is I get to learn from their own mistakes so I don't have to repeat them.
That is a tremendous benefit. This industry is getting closer together. The people who know, and we want you to know. We want our listeners, our viewers, we want you to be in the know. We want you to understand that there are resources out there. There are ways to improve your business. This is not just a pick things up and put them down industry. To the point we've been driving home all day here is that this is a customer service industry. And whether that customer is a stranded motorist on the side of the road, or that customer is a trash truck driver or a school bus driver, that person is still stranded on the side of the road. And whether you're working or you're broken down in your personal vehicle, that is probably the worst experience that person is having this week, at least this month, maybe even this year, right? My $80,000 car that I underinsured is now broken down, and I'm looking at a $10,000 repair bill, right? Something I need to worry about the $269 to get this vehicle to the shop, right? So these things are all happening in real time, and we need to take a step back and go, okay, well, this is this person's worst day, and we need to handle that with care and with empathy and with concern.
Well, and I would add to that, we really need to make it different, because one of the things our industry has a hard time differentiating is, well, you have tow trucks and you have tow trucks. What makes you different? Well, this is what makes you different, is saying, you know what, I'm not a tow company, I'm a service company, and I'm going to service you well. And when you decide that the person is more important than the tow, then it gives you an advantage that your competition's not doing.
True.
Mike, where can our listeners and viewers find you and TDR Way?
Email me at mporter@tdrway.com, or you can go to tdrway.llc.com and message me, or heck, call Shelli and she'll give you my number. And I take phone calls all the time.
Not everyone has my cell phone number.
I feel like that's the theme of this podcast. That every time we ask somebody how to reach them, they're like, "Oh, just call Shelli. They'll put you through."
Not everyone
Shelli will
has
put you
my
through.
number. Shelli's Motor Club over here. Shelli's Rolodex.
And here's the thing: is if you happen to be in the city that I already have somebody in, there's another guy who's doing groups, Burt King, who's doing a great job also. I would refer you to him. We do things a little bit differently than he does, but he was initially in Group 1 with us, and he's a great guy. And so, there are things out there. We are opening Group 3 right now, and so we are looking for companies that are interested in this concept of learning, growing, and ultimately making some more money and making it a place where people want to come and work.
I think everybody wants to make a little bit more money, right?
If you want to be a part of Group 3, email Mike Porter at mporter@tdrway.com. I'm going to say it with intention. With intention.
Mike, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate this. These are great conversations, right? We want to continue this, and we want to share this information with our listeners and our viewers, and we want to...
Appreciate it, buddy.
We want to bring the industry together. So thanks for stopping by.
Well, listen, thanks, guys. I can't tell you how much it means to me that you'd even ask for my opinion on these things. And it was my pleasure being here. And I wish you both, first, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And obviously, if we put this after the first of the year, the last thing I would say about you, so what would the owner do? I said, the next thing is have a plan. What is it that you want? And I think that is the ultimate question, is what do you want? And once you have that answer, then you can start designing systems to get what you want. But other than that, Thank you guys. I appreciate you having me.
Mike Porter, you're awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.